Thank you, Chairman. Thank you to all of our witnesses for being here. Much of what I have prepared and want to say has largely been said, so there will be some repetition in what I communicate in my few minutes here. But I'm gonna pose one question, and to all of you, and to the extent we have time, we're open to hear from any of you about, like, what can we do to change this trajectory right now? I've talked to folks, particularly someone that went to a university that would have been tied up into this, into what I view as just complete lawlessness and nonsense, that went onto our campuses, and she was telling me the story about, like, we actually had a case study. We talked about this region. We understood the plight of both the Jewish state as well as the Palestinian state and the Palestinians, and I've actually been to Ramallah. I met with folks that run the banking system there, and individual and Palestinians, and the difficulties they have for what their future looks like. I mean, and she's like, we went through a case study. It was one of the most enlightening things that I experienced. That's what our college campuses should be doing. What we saw recently with these encampments and the lawlessness that takes place is the exact opposite of what we need to experience on our college campus. So my question to you all is, what can we do to actually, change the trajectory of the way our universities are going when difficult things come up? There has been probably very, very few things that have been as emotional for me in my time in Congress than to be, and we're nowhere near close to it, but seeing what took place on October 7th is probably one of the most emotional things that's happened to me. There's a father of 4. He jumped on a grenade to save his boys. I have 4 boys about that same age. Like, I didn't know something that could happen so far away, even though I've been to those kibbutzes where it took place. And then to know this was ultimately the plan. This is Iran's plan all along. They want the public sentiment to change on Israel. And they want what's going on to actually have happen. I wish students could understand the big picture, and how do we get back to being able to communicate it. I'll mention one thing, and that's especially now that my colleague, Mr. Schneider's here. I've never been, as emotional as that was, I've been more proud of any work that we've done, that in the aftermath of that, Mr. Schneider and my colleague, Mr. Panetta, and I have led numerous efforts to make sure that we support and find ways for the conflict that's going to be going on in Gaza to find ways out and to help the humanitarian effort. Hosting the State Department, the 3 of us have done yeoman's work on figuring this out. And so we're all trying to deal with it. It's a difficult situation. It's tragic. Let me pose that question. Mr. Marcus, I would love to start with you. Just like, what can we do? Do university presidents have to really crack down, or what can we be doing to improve the way we communicate our dialogue and be able to get our dialogue out there so people actually learn instead of just chaos?
Congressman Moore, over this summer, the best of our college administrators are working around the clock to tighten up their policies on conduct, protest, and the like, while the worst of our administrators are ignoring this and allowing things to worsen. Frankly, they will all likely fail if they only look at policies and don't look more deeply at what is leading to this cultural problem. Why is it that universities that should be a source of light and tolerance have become the opposite? That is systemic, and it goes beyond policies and to how they build their faculty, their curriculum, their student body, et cetera.
Doctor, I'll welcome you.
So on this particular issue, I think we have to acknowledge that there's been a concerted effort to change the way Israel is taught about and how the region is taught about going back to the 1970s. The reason for those gifts was to change the way elite universities teach about the region. The New York Times, if you read the New York Times from the 1970s and the 1980s, there are a lot of stories about alarm about the money coming in. And so I think the money needs to be shut off, and I think we need to bring viewpoint diversity to our public affairs disciplines.
Professor.
5 things that I think every university should do. 1, permanently ban every pro-terror student organization. Suspensions are a slap on the wrist that it does nothing. 2, expel the leaders. They know who the leaders of these organizations are. Most of the students protesting are good people, but the leaders need to be held accountable. 3, every one of these organizations has a faculty advisor. those faculty advisors should be sanctioned and maybe fired for every faculty that supports terrorism, that openly celebrates Hamas, Islamic Jihad, should not be allowed to interact with undergraduates, graduates, any student. They can still have their job, but they're not allowed to be with any students. And 5, every university should adopt the IRA definition of anti-Semitism. If it's good enough for the US Congress, if it's good enough for the President of the United States, it should be good enough for the President of Colombia.
Thank you all. Thank you, Chairman. I yield back.